and kind of get started, I guess. Is there any? Do you have any other questions for me? I feel I mean, like, I've known you via the internet for, like, I don't know, a handful of years. I feel like we have a lot of friends in common.
Of course, yeah.
I think I first got familiar with you and your music and everything you were doing when you were doing stuff with Suleiman. Because
yes, the first Nobody's project.
Yes, the first local Nobodies. Yeah, yeah, and it was dope. I played the hell out. You got, I think, the song on there called, like, is it Run? Yep. Like, you start off
Always
singing
want what we don't get.
Something, yeah. But the whole project's good. And I met Sully through DJ Castle, and he's the homie. So
yeah,
he actually brought Sully to Indy.
I just
once.
talked to Castle.
Oh, did you? Nice. Yeah, I feel like I wish I talked to Castle more often. He's one of the most solid people that I've ever met. And just
he's been like a silent, like, compass for me.
Yeah.
Like, he's very generous, and he's very he's sort of like, he shows his morals. Like, you know, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And he actually has the effect on you where he doesn't, like, chastise you if you say something fucked up, but, like, you can tell that he is not with that shit. And he's actually, like, sort of molded me into, like, a better person just from being adjacent to him.
That's
Shouts to Castle. Great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me where you grew up. Like, where did you grow up in, and why did music matter to you when you were growing up?
Well, I started, let's see, I was born in Hanover Park, Illinois, which is a western suburb.
Okay.
Moved all over the western suburbs, and then we ended up in Wheaton. I spent most of my life in Wheaton, or most of my, like, youth in Wheaton, I guess, and then moved to West Chicago. But there was college in between, so I was in Carbondale, Illinois, Southern Illinois University, for 5 years, between 2003 and 2009-ish, 2008-ish.
I have relatives that were from Wheaton, actually.
Oh yeah, who?
It's my brother's. So my brother has a different father than me, and my stepdad's brother lived in Wheaton. Their last name would be Ravenscraft, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think Matt Ravenscraft, and
that's a sick name.
Yeah, they played soccer and stuff, but I don't know how big Wheaton is. You know what I mean? And
Wheaton's pretty big. Like, I lived on the small side of Wheaton. Like, the most people, I think, live on the south side of Wheaton. I lived on the north side of Wheaton, and yeah, it was like a small town, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'd still people from, like a mile away. You'd never seen them in your life.
Right. Yeah.
But music, like how music came to be for me, I think I absorbed a lot of music that my parents were playing when I was a kid, which was like, my dad was a metalhead. He was into Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, and my mom was the opposite. She was into, like, James Taylor was her favorite.
Gotcha.
And I was just, like, really kind of like a sensitive boy, wasn't into sports as much. Grew up in a really, like, my parents were really nice people, and, like, encouraged us. They had us trying everything. I grew up with a brother, older brother. My parents got us into everything. I played football, baseball, I figure skated, and
nice.
And then music, like they got us into, I started piano lessons when I was like 5. I was really sort of like not into so much of the reading music part of it. I wouldn't stick with the lessons, but I would always play it. I'd always play the piano. And then my Aunt Margie gave me her old classical guitar when I was in 4th grade. And then I somehow connected with the guitar, like, really more so than the piano. I just, like, understood it. I like, the first thing I did when I took it out is I played the E string with my thumb, and I took this thumb and I was playing the frets with my left thumb, and I figured out don 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 don.
Yeah.
but I did it all on one string.
Mm.
And then I started getting lessons, and I just it sort of, developed from there. Like I wanted to be a guitar player, and then once I got like sort of good at guitar in high school, I wanted to sing. And then once I started singing more, I wanted to figure out how I could make records. And I started making the first MATHIEN records in 2002. I was a junior in high school.
Mm. Nice.
Those are funny. You should hear those.
What was it? What do you think it was about the guitar? Was it that it seemed more cool? Or was it just you had a little bit more range and like bending sound and stuff? You know what I mean? Or
to this day, I still understand it better because the way parallel movement works. If you play a G bar chord, and then you move that same shape up 2 frets, it's still going to be a major chord. If you do that on a piano, everything's fucked up, and you gotta right. Oh, this key's black now. This one's the fuck.
Yeah. That's true.
So the parallel movement of the fretboard, I just got it. I was like, oh, okay, and it's chromatic too,
Mm.
I just knew how to. I didn't know how to play it, but I knew. I saw what I could do with it, I guess. And the piano was just sort of like, oh, this is all right. I love the piano now more than I ever have, but I really love playing bass. Like,
right.
Bass guitar is like my favorite instrument, I think, to play now.
That's interesting. I've tried multiple times to pick up guitar. My mom always had a guitar when I was growing up, and I would always grab it and play around with it, but I never got into it. To actually try to learn how to play it. For some reason, I don't know why I never did. I even played around with bass a little bit in the last 10 years or so. I had a random bass line on a track that I made. But the funny thing is after I figured out the bass line on the guitar, I just went over to a VST and replayed it on a keyboard. So, so were you in band or anything like that in high school and middle school and stuff like that? Or was your music just kind of your own thing?
I tried to do that kind of stuff, but I was sort of, I don't want to say a misfit, because I was kind of happy. I was sort of like a dreamer, if you will, but I was not good at school, and I wasn't good at I was in the jazz band playing the guitar in the 6th grade, and I just I don't know, I don't think I liked it.
Yeah. Organized music like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been awesome. I would have loved to do it now, but I don't know. I just it was hard for me to I had really bad ADHD, still do, and just being at a place at a certain time was a challenge for me.
Gotcha.
It was outside of school. I had to be really structured, but at the same time, when you're 11 or 12 years old, you're not really making your own decisions anyways.
Right. That's true.
I want to say I had sort of a soft rebellion about me, I'd say. Where I was this sort of nice kid, happy, but didn't really want to do certain things or didn't really fuck with school.
I was definitely in band for 6 years. I played trumpet, and I stayed in it the last 2 years only because I was in it for so long and because I enjoyed jazz band. Is because I like jazz band, and I had to stay in all the other things to be in jazz band. They wouldn't let me just be in jazz band. So, but as soon as I graduated high school, I was like, man, I don't want to play trumpet anymore, but I still want to do music. And that's when I started producing. So,
you can't really bring the trumpet to the dorms,
Yeah, it's just, and you can't really do much with it outside of just whipping it out and playing it. You know what I mean? I can't record it, it's here's my trumpet, check this lick out, so production was kind of a natural evolution. But it sounds like you were doing stuff before that while you were still in high school. So I think we're probably close to the same age. I'm 37. I don't know how old you are, but did you grow up in the 90s?
I turned 36 on Tuesday.
Okay, so we're very close in, similar age. But
when's your birthday?
May 12th. So,
oh, okay. It's kind of coming up.
Yeah. So, yep. It's time goes faster. The older I get, I've noticed. But
I like knowing how old people are too, just so I can get their sense of like pop culture parental point. Like, have you seen Alf? You know?
Ha! Yeah.
That was bad. That wasn't very good. I'm sorry, Sean. Ha!
Yeah, it's not good at all.
Yeah.
I gotta keep
that last one sounded like the guy. He sounded like the dad from the dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, that was it. So yeah, that's the show that like the dinosaurs. Like you have to be a certain age range to know the dinosaurs because I don't even know if you can even find it anymore. Like I'm sure you can, but
you can. It's on Amazon, but or Hulu, I think. But hey, I've got a question for you about dinosaurs. Is it just me, or is dinosaurs basically Family Matters but with dinosaurs? Family Matters, right?
Family Matters with man, all those shows were so similar. So yeah. I don't. Yeah, I guess he was.
I
to be honest,
the dinosaur guy wasn't a cop, but you know,
I'd have
it
to.
just seemed like it was Family Matters, but with dinosaurs to me.
You know what? This is actually making me want to actually watch an episode of Dinosaurs. So
Dinosaurs is a funny show. There's an episode where they find like a drug episode, and they find broccoli underneath the kid's bed. You got a bag of broccoli, like it's a sack of weed. It's a funny show.
But a lot of those shows from that era were so similar, though. Like it was just kind of a couple things kind of twisted. You know, they'd swap the black people out for the white people, and you know, it'd be very similar and stuff like that. But yeah, I figured we were close to the same age once you meant, you know, Nirvana was a very significant part of my life, and alternative rock was just as a, you know, it's like I remember where I was when Kurt Cobain died, you know, like when I heard the news, like I was such a huge fan of just everything they were doing. That's actually what actually pivoted me to kind of change my musical interest. I kind of went from alternative rock to hip hop around that time period, which is actually kind of interesting. I don't know
because you were like, it's over, he's gone.
That's probably what it was, some sort of weird psychological thing.
That's interesting. My brother did the same thing. My brother's 4 years older than me, and he abandoned grunge, man, around like 96, 97.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Great. So you said that you worked on your first MATHIEN album when you were in high school.
Yeah, I started uploading singles, basically. Yeah, it was all singles.
How are you doing it back to I'm guessing this was 2000, what? 2001,
it was like 2001, 2002, yeah.
You were like ahead of the game.
My dad was a database administrator. He was a tech geek. He always knew these like core like hacker types that he worked with.
Yeah.
And these guys he worked with knew that I was into music. That time I got really into P-Funk. I was super into George Clinton. And I was making beats on the family computer using a Windows sound recorder.
How?
What I would do is I would sample a hi-hat from a record. I would record a hi-hat from a CD, and then I would copy and paste it, 100 times. So, and then I would go back, and there was a function on there called blend paste, and then I would sample a kick drum, and then blend paste it where I wanted the kick drum to go. So I was making drum patterns on like Windows sound recorder, which is ridiculous. And I wish I still had those.
Hold up. So I use sound recorder. That was the very first thing I recorded on too, but we were only doing vocals. You could actually like structure some stuff with sound recorder.
I was making beats on it because there's a function called because you can copy, like if you pasted you pasted or imported the hi-hat like I talked about from a CD, copy or highlight, copy, paste it, paste, and it's all the same length, so it creates the tempo. And then you could go back, and there was a function called blend paste, and if you blend pasted kick drum, you could hear the kick and hi-hat at the same time. And then I would go back and do the snare, and then I was doing samples and stuff too, figuring out. But then my dad, that was only for like I think a year or so I was doing it that way, and then my dad came home with a copy of Acid Pro.
Shouts to the Acid gang.
I use, and that for people who are listening, that's one of the first like loop-based softwares where you can record overdubs, and you can essentially just create songs if you wanted to, if you had a mic and maybe some instruments, and I did. So at first we were using the mic that came with the computer, and then, you know, for my birthday, we went to the Guitar Center and got like an okay mic. I won't say it was good, but it was all right. Just like opening up that program for the first time, it was sort of a similar experience I had when I picked up my Aunt Margie's guitar. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a song. I made a track called Lost Highway. It was like a funk track. And then they had a website called acidplanet.com. Yep. And the users could upload music to it. So that was a really good exercise for me to get into, because it was like the precursor to what MySpace ended up being essentially. So I just got really used to uploading my music and trying to get people to listen to it somehow. And from the jump, I was recording. At that time, I was recording, I think, a few songs a month. I have all of this stuff, you know. That's
great. I have all my early stuff too. Yeah, I started with Acid Music. I think 2 or 3 was the first program I had. I think January 2002 is when I got it for the first time. But I didn't know you could do that with Sound Recorder. That's crazy, man. It's like shots to Slade.
I don't think I don't think you're supposed to like. I don't think it was ever meant to do that, but I just sort of figured it out.
Yeah.
And then the other funny thing about the Acid program is that I used the Acid program until like 2 years ago. It might have even been like a year and a half ago. I was doing a project for Disney. I was doing some scoring, some music scoring for like some ads that Disney was putting out on like Instagram ads and ads that were on their website and stuff. And a couple of times during the back and forth with the edits and all that stuff, they got really nervous because they knew I was using this old ass computer. And Nick sent me a laptop with Ableton on it. Castle. Yeah. He's like, bro, we're getting nervous. You need to fucking stop using that old ass computer.
That's funny. I mean, I used Acid up until 2010, I think. And
it'd be funny if someone just like joined in right now and they heard you say that.
Yeah.
Like, man, this guy's doing drugs.
Do drugs on a regular. Take some acid and then use Microsoft Sound Recorder. Who knows what's going to happen? You know, I did it like, and honestly, the only reason I changed was because I did this Red Bull Music Academy thing in Detroit. Like they had one of them base camps, and I went up there, and all of the it was like in the what was it, the Hitmaker Studio? I always forget what it's actually called, but it's one of those legendary ones where Parliament recorded, George Clinton recorded all their albums. Mick Jagger recorded. What'd you say?
If it's Parliament, it's United Sound, most likely.
United. There we go. Yeah. United Sound. So they had a whole bunch of like mini studios set up in there, and
so sorry if you guys hear all this rumbling.
It's tons of rumbling, but it's all good. You know, it's part of it. It's part of the experience.
Yeah, sorry. Here we go.
But on all the setups, they only had Ableton, Logic, and one Fruity Loops, and I think maybe a Reason or something. And so like myself and like a handful of other people, we were like, I didn't know any of the programs. So I was like, well, I guess I'll learn something new. So that's where I met a handful of people. And we kind of banded together and learned Ableton a little bit. And when I came home, I was like, yo, Ableton is way better than Acid Music.
I know, that's what happened with me too. But you know what? That first month or so was a bitch. Like trying to learn all the shortcuts and all that. I was getting really frustrated and like calling Slot A and bothering him. It was. There's definitely a learning curve there.
Yeah, I took. I think when I got back, I finally decided, like, all right, I'm gonna learn this program, and it took me about a month of only using it, and forcing myself, and this is like working almost like every day on it before I got comfortable enough to like not do like the stuff that I needed to do in acid anymore. You know, like it was still the thing that I would do if I needed to, but it took I hit it, you know, pretty head on. Shouts to 𝗏𝐻𝐶, who's on the show typically. He still uses acid sometimes. I tried to convert him to Ableton a couple years ago, and he's getting there, you know. But there's a lot of people that still use it. I think even 𝗏𝗲𝗱 uses acid, or at least used to. So, you know,
wow.
Acid gang.
I had a conversation with him when I lived in Toronto. I wish I would have. Maybe we did talk about that. I don't know if we talked about that or not. But usually, if someone brings up that program, they're like an anomaly, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Rudy FL Gang, shouts to D-Frog in the chats. Fruity Loops, Slade in the chat. He said that your sound recorder was like essentially a 4-track, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The music that you were making early on, kind of talk about the evolution of the styles of music that you have made. I've heard a handful of different range of sounds from you. When you first started making stuff kind of in high school to when you got acid, did your style change at all? And were you just kind of trying different stuff, or what were you trying to? Okay.
That's sort of been the mission from the very beginning when I started. I don't know if I knew it was a mission then, but like I recorded a song, you know, one song. And then after that one song was done, I wanted to record another song, and I wanted the second song to be completely different from the first song. Maybe not completely, but drastically different. And then I just kept doing that. Every time I recorded a song, I wanted it to be, I wanted to surprise myself because I didn't want to make myself bored. But also I just really appreciated, you know, at that time I thought I was eclectic. But, you know, now, of course, I've like listened to throat singing and God knows what, you know. But yeah, and it's just always been that way. Yeah, I've always just wanted to surprise myself and push my own envelopes concerning genre.
What about instrument wise? You mentioned that you obviously tinkered around with piano and guitar early on. Have you tried any other type of instruments out? I mean, obviously bass, but what was kind of did you just do guitar for a while, and then when did you start playing bass, or when did you start picking stuff, you know?
I didn't really, I mean, I kind of knew how to play bass, but didn't buy one until maybe 2014, 2015.
Okay.
But I had been around enough musicians and played the bass enough where I had like already put in some time on it. Yeah. Before I bought one. So I guess it's hard to even say. It's hard to pinpoint, but yeah, with the instrumentation thing, that's another thing too. I just never wanted to be, you know, when people see a picture of me on Google or whatever, and I'm playing a show and I have my guitar, and people immediately are just like, oh, he's a singer-songwriter. He plays guitar and he sings. Yeah. And I get that because it's, you know, perception's everything. That's just how that shit works. But yeah, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the guitar guy. I don't want to be the beat maker. I don't want to be whatever archetype.
If you could define your archetype, what do you think you would, or do you just not want to be defined?
Yeah, I think it would be some weird, like weirdo would be the archetype maybe, or I don't know. Definitely want to stay away from archetypes, both with, you know, describing myself and then other people too, of course. But archetypes are sometimes fun. Like the guy who was the computer lab guy in our high school, like the guy who ran the computer lab was exactly the comic book guy from The Simpsons. It was the same person. And like characterizations of people that, oh, that character is familiar to me, but I don't know how. I know this person, like Napoleon Dynamite. You know, it's like, oh, everyone went to middle school with a guy that was like Napoleon Dynamite, you know? Yeah.
So when did you start, or you mentioned a couple times, you know, bands and stuff like that. Did you? I don't want to call it a wave, but a lot of people that I grew up with that got really good at instruments and making songs and stuff, they would form together and create a band, you know, and stuff like that, and you know, be able to combine all their musicianship as opposed to just like, you know, Trent Reznor in it, or you know, doing it all by themselves or whatnot. At least I think that's what he did, but I could be wrong. But did that happen for you, or I'm assuming it did at some point in time? Was it more of a curiosity thing, or
playing in bands was? I mean, I started bands. I was playing in bands like 5th, 6th grade, all through middle school, I guess, playing with just screwing around with my friends, kind of thing. And then we started like a pop punk band called Munger Road. It was named after the this haunted road in West Chicago, and that was you know, that was not what I wanted to really be doing, but it was fun, and it was a bonding experience to play music with other people. And then we opened up for big bands too. Like we opened up for what's it called? They did Hey There Delilah, the Plain White Tees, because a lot of those bands were from the western suburbs. And so when you'd play shows, you'd play at some community center, and it'd be like Lucky Boys Confusion would be playing with you, and then Plain White Tees. But yeah, I was sort of doing my MATHIEN stuff on the side, like making my beats. And you know, I think the sort of the preppy kids I went to high school with, they're like, that's weird or whatever. Why don't you play something that sounds like Dave Matthews? Yeah. And yeah, and then the idea of playing the band, playing like the MATHIEN stuff that I was producing at home, that happened when I was in music school. In college, this guy named Nick Williams, who was a trombonist, he heard my records and he was like, hey, we got to play this stuff live. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But sure enough, he said, meet me at 𝗡𝗲𝗄 in the practice room at 10 o'clock on Saturday. And I met him over there, and he had a full band for me. He had a drummer, a horn section. It was a drummer, a horn section, and a bassist. So no keyboardist, and then I just played the guitar. And we started practicing and then booking shows. And then like we got really big in that town, which is, you know.
Where'd you go to college at?
Southern Illinois University.
You say Southern Illinois?
Mm-hmm. I said it weird.
Well, it cut out right there. Right when
I said it weird
Southern.
too, though. I promise.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
I think I could be wrong, but I think Jay Moore on the show went to college. I'm probably butchering it. I know he went to school somewhere in Southern Illinois, because
a lot of people went to school there. Hannibal Buress went to school down there, and my Open Mike Eagle also went to school down there.
Okay.
Serengeti, if you're familiar with Serengeti.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that must be how they met, because I know that they're close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of I don't know what it is about that town, but I think it's really pretty, and it's, you know, like the school is easy. Like the schoolwork seems easy. Like you get to fuck around a lot in that town. Is this
is this like on the southern like tip of Illinois?
It's almost as far south as you can go. Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh. There's a town called Cairo, which is, you know, only really like 10 miles away. That's the furthest you can go. So it's in between Nashville and St. Louis.
Interesting. So why did you choose that school?
I got in. Yeah, I got in. I got into Northern too, but I think I wanted to go further away, and I went and visited the school, and it was really pretty. I mean, there's forest preserves down there. There's lots of rock formations down there. There's lots of places you can go in that area where you're like, I feel like I'm in Wyoming or something, you know?
Yeah.
I'm going back to your question too with the band thing, because I wanted to finish that thought.
Sure.
Yeah. So then we started playing shows in the area. You know, like we're touring out in Illinois. We play sometimes in Nashville. This is all when I was in college. Then we got really successful in the southern Midwest, and then I signed a deal, and then moved up to Chicago. Then next 5 years where I was with that label, attempted to market in as a band. was difficult because one, the band wasn't signed, I was signed. And it really, I mean, as much as I wanted it to be like this, and it was this like collective of people, but like it wasn't really like Pearl Jam where it's 5 guys in a room and they're all like, oh, what are we gonna do? I was writing the songs and then these guys were playing them, and that caused so much friction because, you know, they felt weird because they were doing photo shoots and stuff like that. Then it was like, yeah, it was just really kind of a messy situation. I didn't find the balance of what I needed that like a band situation to be until after I got out of that deal. And after I got out of that deal, I started making my own records again and putting them out and hiring guys on my own to play this stuff. And eventually, after a few years of doing that, and I moved around a lot, you know, I moved to Knoxville and then I moved to Toronto, Canada. And it took me a few years to really get a group of guys together that are just, I mean, in Chicago, man, it's great. Because I got a band, 4 guys, 3 guys besides myself. And they're amazing. I mean, they'll play anytime with me. And if they can't, then there's like 3 other people for each respective instrument that can fill that slot.
Right.
And play it. And then it's just, I was really relieved to sort of be able to manage a situation on my own, and sort of, it was self-affirming that I could do that in a sort of peaceful way, because I almost had this like sort of like abusive relationship mentality, whereas like, all right, there's a lot of friction between the band members. That's just kind of how it is sometimes. It was sort of that idea, but fuck that. It should be, you know, music should be fun, and it should make everybody happy. And if somebody's upset, or if somebody is feeling like they're not getting a big enough piece of the pie or whatever it is, like, bad vibes, and you can't have that.
Right.
So that the sort of evolution of what role a band plays in the MATHIEN project has sort of solidified in the last like few years, thankfully.
Is the maybe talk a little bit more about that process, because I guess the process of creating. So when you were on the label as yourself, just yourself, no bandmates, was the process still you create the music and then you kind of guide everybody to what they're playing, or was it you guys kind of came up with stuff together, or how did that work exactly?
I was writing everything pretty much.
Yeah.
There's like a couple songs that are exceptions.
Do you feel like it had to be that way because of how everything was set up, or did it make it more like restricted in that manner?
Yeah, it's hard. That's a hard call. Probably more the first thing you said, because of the way it was set up, but also I wasn't really like, I wasn't in control of how I was managing everything. So I was kind of taking I don't want to say guidance, but I was sort of answering to somebody else, and they were governing how everything was working, which is what put all the pressure on the band.
I see.
Yeah.
This type of stuff is always interesting in general, and people that create with bands as like it's MATHIEN and the band, but different people like create together in different ways. I remember we talked to Odyssey at one point, and he talked about him and the Good Company and how they create. And when he talked about how much control he has over the entire situation of the creative process, even though he works with his band, it seems like it's very similar to how you do it, as he pretty much makes everything and then kind of says, no, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. And for him, he said specifically, he said, if it's not that way, then it's too hectic. It's like too many creative minds in the same place. Now, I've never been in a band. I've been in crews, but
he's got a point there where it's actually, if you do it this way and everyone's cool with it, it's easy. But then in recent years, I've gotten into like, okay, I just send these guys the recordings, you know, on a little Spotify playlist. They listen to them, they learn them on their instrument, and then we made up in the rehearsal spot. And then I'm like, all right, you guys know the songs now. How are we gonna put this show together? And that's where everybody can get creative, and it's not like you're some dickhead who's like, all right, guys, you better be tight tonight.
And I guess it's also
you better play.
I guess too, with all the music you're doing now, you're pretty much doing all of it, right? I mean, are you working with other musicians for your projects here and there, or is there a lot of collaboration?
Yeah, I collaborate a lot now because I really like doing it, and you know, sort of to contradict what I said earlier about always surprising myself with genres and all that. I will say that after doing this for so long, that you do get into little niches and things that you're sort of used to doing. And sometimes when I'm playing a guitar solo or something, I'll look down at my fingers and I'll be like, fuck, they're doing the same thing they always do. This is stupid. So collaborating for me is just a way for somebody else to sort of stretch out a different part of your brain that you might not really use if you were tinkering around in your studio by yourself. So I love collaborating now, and also I can't do everything too. So I collaborate a lot with this guy, Aaron Paris, who's in Toronto. He does string arrangements, and then I work a lot with these guys in Amsterdam, and some of them are here in Chicago and Austin, Texas. And that's Soul Food Horns. Yeah. So yeah, I collaborate like a lot.
Is most of your collaboration still kind of stemming from your ideas? Are you coming up with ideas and then sending them to add, or is it kind of the vice versa?
Sometimes I don't really approach it so formulaic, I guess. Like for instance, I got a song called with Sam Hudgens. And the way that song worked was I went to a studio session in Evanston at Sam's house, and he played this beat for me. This is 3 years ago. Played this beat for me, and I heard it, and I was like, dude, you have to finish that. No, I asked to write to it. I said, can I have that? And he was like, no, I'm writing to it. And I'm like, yeah, it's really dope. It sounded like Bon Iver. I was very like new, sort of cutting edge, like pop, but very tasteful. Sort of R&B-ish and almost folk, like the guitar was folky and everything. I really wanted to write to it, and he seemed like he wanted to write to it. So of course, you gotta respect. He came over to do a session over here, September, and he forgot that he played this beat for me, and he played it for me again. And he was like, yeah, man, I've been stuck on this thing for, 2 or 3 years. And then he left after that session, and I recorded the whole song to it and then sent it to him. And he called me on the phone freaking out, like yelling, oh, this is fucking awesome. And then I said, I'm going to erase my first verse, and I'm going to erase I sang the first verse in the chorus, and I erased my first verse and I had him sing it. And then we're both on the first chorus. I sing the second verse, and then we're both on the second hook. And the reason I did that was because, like, singers don't want to sing together a lot of times. I think it's maybe like a Chicago, like a lot of people are sort of threatened by each other, whether they want to admit it or not. But you don't really see a lot of singers collabing with each other. Singers work with rappers sometimes, and but Sam has a beautiful voice. Like, I think Sam has a prettier voice than mine, and I think my voice is all right, I guess. But I was like, you should sing this first verse because, your voice is awesome. And so like I said, I just don't really, no rhyme or reason to how things happen. It's just more, I'm always listening. I'm always listening and trying to, wake up in the morning, you come down here and you start fucking with samples and nothing's sounding right. And then you get frustrated. And then one time you hit a certain combination and you're like, oh, I know what this is now. And then, you can complete an idea. And sometimes you're the one who does it. And then sometimes it's somebody who plays a thing on the saxophone that triggers something in you. So as much as I'd like to take all the credit for everything I do, I just can't.
No, I understand. And it's, you seem to have a very, very, you seem like you do have a very, very organic approach to how you kind of create, I guess.
Yeah. Plan. And I think plan.
Yeah. And then that's how, I feel like I balance my left and right brain on a regular basis, and I have to get in a specific type of like creative mode so that I stop thinking. And it's actually one thing that I teach a lot of my students, especially the ones that tend to think a little bit too much. I was like you're thinking a little bit too much about the structure and where everything's going to go, and just kind of feel it out a little bit first, and all that good stuff.
That's huge, because like, I think a lot, but if I was thinking too much, I wouldn't be able to put out all the music I'm putting out, because I would be like, oh, the mix is weird, I don't like the snare, or whatever it is. And it's like, I think part of releasing art is you work on it as long as you can, and then you have to get to a point where you're like, fuck it, put it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't, then you'll just never put anything out. And then
and also like, sometimes you just want to move to the next idea too. At least I do. Yeah.
A lot of times we're, as creatives in general, no matter what your creative medium is, we're always extra hard on ourselves as well. And it's good to not get into destructive patterns about thinking whether or not something is valuable enough to be released. Sometimes I think that can, or shared with the world. And I think the approach that you just talked about of like, hey, I don't want to work on this anymore, I think it's pretty good, let me just gonna put it where it needs to be.
Worst case scenario, no one is gonna hear it.
I know, right? Exactly.
Like, okay. It's like yelling into the forest,
Absolutely.
It's like throwing a beat tape into a canyon.
Yeah. I know I've been talking a lot about this. I'm just interested in it. How has your process with collaboration changed throughout the years? Or has it?
Back in the early days of of Chicago, like when I was in Chicago from 2009 to 2013, it was different, because I was really just working with rap artists. So it was a lot of going to people's spots. Sometimes you go to the studio, but most of the time we were going to apartments. And, I was the hook guy. I was like the Nate Dogg. Times I'd have people over my spot. It was very like, it felt very much like, all right, I'm going to do my part, and then you're going to record your part. I'd collab with just so many different types of different creatives and people who do different things. Like, it just, each situation is a little different. I don't know how to answer your question, Sean.
Well, for me specifically, if I can just speak a little bit about my past a little bit. Like, I was in a 5-person hip hop group in like the mid 2000s, and it was really cool because we were just learning everything. And so there were no rules. We were just trying shit out, right? You know what I mean? And that I wish that I could go back to that and be in that mode like all the time with the knowledge that I have now, because it was just so, it's just so free. We were just like, hey, let's try this. Oh, that's cool. Cool. Let's do this. Cool. Like, we didn't know any better. We were just doing it. But the mind state of just free flowing organicness of what everything was, not taking anything too serious. It's it changed once I started. I don't know. It was like, all right,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It changed, and it got to a point.
What you're talking about. You probably got a job. You probably got really focused in your career, and it started. You talked about your left and your right brain. I think you started using your left brain a lot. And for me, I went through the same thing where I was just, every time I would create, I would like really question myself, or think I had to do, or think about if I was writing lyrics, I'd think about everybody who would hear the song.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'd be like, man, I miss being a fucking dumb 18-year-old kid. Really?
Yeah. No, for sure.
Just drink. I would drink 3 ice houses and just.
Yep. It's
start doing a drum pattern, I guess.
It was like in the mid 2000s, my apartment, I lived in this loft where it is like on the other side of the wall was somebody that was always banging on the wall because we were too loud. And it was my spot was the place, and we would just come over. Like I even had a key for people to come when I wasn't there. Another dude that made music, and it was just we just hung out drunk and made music and played video games, and you know, like that's what the routine was, and it was just so natural.
Party ends at some point for everybody.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like, so as I've gone through it, I went through my extremely serious phase, you know, like, all right, I have to do everything like this, you know, and then once I stopped caring about that, it kind of got to where I am now, which is a lot more organic again. It's not the same because I'm obviously not 20 years old or 19 and 20, but it's different now because I'm actually like creating for my purposes. Like I'm making stuff that I want to make. I don't really care about the other, you know, like, don't get me wrong. We all want to be quote unquote successful and want people, we don't want to like throw our music in the forest and for nobody to hear it. But at the same time, like it doesn't matter as much. Like once I've been through it a little bit, it's changed. So
I think another thing happens too when you're in your 20s, which is like, you know, when I was like 23, 24, 25, where it's like if everything feels very crucial, especially with my situation where I was like, you know, in that label situation or whatever, it was like, you know, this is the time for it to happen. So you have to do this shit now. And everything felt, like I said, so crucial. And then when I sort of got into my 30s and I realized, oh, whatever I thought was going to happen didn't really happen, or maybe what I thought was going to happen happened, but it happened way differently. Then I sort of like relaxed, and then I feel like in my 30s I had like a second childhood almost, in a musical sense, where I did get back to like what you're saying, where you feel more free now. And I think that has something to do with it for me anyways, where it's like, oh, I don't really give a shit if I get famous anymore. So that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then people start fucking with your music more. Isn't that funny?
It's gotta, there's some sort of, there's got to be some sort of, and you know, then here comes the left brain, you know, like, or the right brain. I don't even know which brain is which, but here comes the other side of the brain. It's like, there's got to be a reason why. Yeah. So then it comes like, there's got to be a reason why. So let me figure out why. Yeah. But yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like the stuff that I'm releasing anymore, because I used to put out music all the time and I still put out a decent amount, but I just don't, it's not that I don't care, but I just don't care as much anymore, man. I don't care to, I just don't have the impress people brain like anymore. Like it's just, so,
it doesn't make for great art. I don't think impress people brains.
I don't think so either. Slot's got a question. He says, ask him about his process for Pump 3.
Oh yeah. So, Pump 3, I think everybody who's listening, they should go listen to Pump 3. It's on my record 𝗏𝗏, which is basically a beat tape, but I had a bunch of people come over and record over it. But Pump 3 was a session that we did before I did all those beats, but I still put it on that beat tape because it like fit. But Pump 3 was essentially, I had a drum loop over here. I had my friend Noe Mina come over here. He's a trumpeter. No.
I don't think he wants to be a trumper. Well,
no, definitely not. I mean. No, he doesn't. Yeah, he's one of the Soul Food Horn guys from Austin. And I wanted to introduce him to some Chicago people because he just moved out here. So I was like, man, what if he met Slot A? So he came over here and met Slot A. Slot A brought a little sampler over, an Akai. Was that what you call it? Akai?
Yeah.
AKAI.
That's what I call it. I mean,
it's a real small sampler that had actually pressed, I don't know if it had pads. I think he was hitting it was like a piano keyboard on there.
Huh.
Yeah,
well,
some
I was gonna say Slot's always got a new piece of equipment every time I see him. So
yeah, that's what's cool about him is he's not just like an MPC guy. He like and DAWs too. He's used several different DAWs, but like he came over and we had this. I had a drum loop going, and he just chopped up a record and started pressing the pads and getting the samples going, and whatever he made, whatever that sample pattern was, we just looped it throughout the track. We ended up deleting it, or in some parts we had it mixed down really low, put some filters on it or whatever. But like that loop ended up just inspiring the bass line, and then the Rhodes piano part, and then Noé did something on the trumpet. We sent it out to Luke in Amsterdam. He did something on it, I think. And then I'm not sure if it happened the same day, but maybe Slot can correct me, but I think Slot came back and it was a little more finished. And it was so cool because we were just sitting in here, and I thought we were just going to talk production ideas. And Slade's sitting right over here. He's just grabs a notebook and he starts writing in his notebook. And I never heard. I guess there's records out there where Slade's rapping and stuff, and I've never heard them. But he's just right. I thought he's got
a couple I really like. Yeah, I think "Good Morning" is one that I really like a lot.
I really need to go down that wormhole. But yeah, he took a spiral out and he was just writing stuff, and I almost didn't take it seriously. I'll be honest. I was almost just like, oh, that's cool. He feels like writing right now. I didn't know he was going to do what he ended up doing, because what he ended up doing was this like amazing, like, you can't call it it's sort of a rap. It's funk. It's pure funk. Like,
I don't think I've heard this song. I'm going to have to look this up.
He sounds like the guy from the Ohio Players almost, or something like that. And the track's very Parliament Funkadelic influenced. But he talked about going to the gas station and getting Flamin' Hots. I've got $5 on pump 3, $4 Flamin' Hots. Rub the dust on me. You don't want to step to this. I'm 5 seconds away from catching my first attempt. $5 on pump 3.
I know exactly the voice that you're talking about. I don't know if Slot's still in the chat, but Slot. He
better still be there. He told me to tell that whole story.
Slot is not only like one of the funniest people I've ever met, and he's just a great guy, but he is an alien musically, and the range that he has is just is special. So yeah, he is here. Okay, cool.
Beat.
All right.
Really happy to see Slade doing a lot of last couple of years, him doing production work with Jamila Woods, just the different things that he's been doing. Absolutely. Him and a lot of other people, making me proud to be a Chicagoan.
There's a one other question we can I believe, and then I want to kind of jump back again, but I don't want to lose track of this question. Shouts to Does It Matter Though? Would be interested to know, out of all of your projects, which one is your favorite?
I actually have to go on Spotify and just take a look at all the album covers real quick. Unique Man's a really cool record because it's the first record I did when after I left the label. And it actually happened after if I can be candid, I had a really scary drug experience. Took some fake ecstasy one night in 2013. And like, basically like I went psycho. But I thought I was going to die too. I went to the hospital and everything. But
you went psycho. What do you mean? Like
I had a psychotic episode, I would say. But it was triggered by, drugs and like intense panic. Like when I got to the hospital, I remember asking the nurse, like, "Hey, am I okay or am I freaking out?" And he's like, "Your potassium's pretty low. Your blood sodium's pretty low." So I was definitely tripping out and really paranoid, but I was also like, I was in bad shape. My heart was beating my heart was going boom, 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 boom. what do you call it thing that hangs down in the back of your mouth?
Yeah, the dangler thing. Yeah.
The little dangler thing that was all swollen. I could feel it bouncing around in the back of my mouth. I was terrified. Eventually, I think they gave me something and knocked me out. But I woke up the next morning in the hospital. I couldn't believe I was alive, and I recorded the Unique Man album, pretty much right after that happened. And I, stopped drinking and doing drugs.
How long
for a while.
How long did the episode last? Was it kind of pretty short?
So I took it with a bunch of people, and everybody's pill wore off after 3 or 4 hours, and mine lasted for like a day and a half. I think someone was hating. I think someone was, I don't know, or maybe someone didn't count it up right, or I don't know what happened, but it was fucked up. Yeah, because I was the only person that had this reaction to it. So yeah, it was really scary. But yeah, the Unique Man album came out of that, and I was really clear-headed when I did that record, and I was really, I just left the label, and I wanted to. I think it's an ambitious record because I really wanted to make an amazing record on my own again. So Unique Man was definitely a standout project for me. Another one was 𝗏𝐲 𝗢𝐿𝐴, which is Christopher Andrew Lawrence MATHIEN. It's my initials. And that was just, I liked that project a lot because it was full like diverse. Each song is way different than the one before it. And there's 14 tracks on it. Most of the records I'm putting out now are like 7 songs. Because I noticed people don't listen to the last songs on the record, so I made them shorter.
It's interesting when you look at the statistics on albums, just how much it goes like this, like a straight line almost.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I it's sad that that's the way it is, because I do pay attention to sequence of what order the songs go in, but I heard someone say one time, just put your best song at the beginning of the album.
Yeah.
The best song on the album should be song number 1. So I try to start there. But, that's all subjective anyways. And then you put it out, and then song 6 ends up cracking or whatever,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Thanks for asking the question.
And 𝐷𝐿 𝗏𝐿𝐴, which comes out on Tuesday, a lot of the songs I already put out as singles. In fact, most of them. But the way I sequenced that album is really, that record feels really cohesive to me. Feels like like Amy Winehouse Back to Black, where it's like, oh, this might have been recorded in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Everything aesthetically sounds similar. Like, it's probably the most focused record genre-wise that I've done, I think. 𝐷𝐿 𝗏𝐿𝐴. So yeah, thanks for the question.
What is your, kind of thought process around releasing music now, as opposed to maybe in the past? I mean, I know I mentioned when we were getting in the Discord earlier, like you put out a lot of music. What is kind of your thought process behind of how you release it, and you just kind of like put it on the calendar, roll with it?
Yeah, I was doing that more in 2020. I was trying to release an album every quarter, and I was sort of stressing myself out because I was giving myself deadlines. And 3 months for me is enough to record an album, but just having the date staring at me and the calendar, and then like having weeks where I wouldn't make music, a week would go by and I would only make like one thing, and I'd sort of hold myself too accountable about it, I think, to the point where it was like stressing me out, like I said. And so after I put out a few records that year, I was like, you know what? This whole thing is like unhealthy for me. I'm gonna just start putting out singles. And then I started putting out singles, and that way I'm only focusing for maybe a week or so on one song, and then you release it, and then it's over. And it's not like, I also worry about my computer crashing when I'm recording albums. Like, I'm recording all these songs that are supposed to go on this record. Like, what if something happens? So I feel way more at ease if I just put out singles constantly. So I started doing that, but then I was recording stuff that I wasn't putting out too, and then putting that in a folder. So then eventually I checked a couple weeks ago, and I had a folder full of loose songs and other singles that I've already put out, and there are 21 songs in there. I was like, I can split these up into 3 records. That's what I did. I put out Cover Boy, which just came out, and then I'm dropping Gambit Yugoslav on Tuesday, and then on St. Patrick's Day I'm dropping another record called Come On Let's Go, I'll Take You Home. And
so is your goal to kind of get your music out there with these releases?
I like the fact that every time I put a record out, there might be new people that are hearing me for the first time. So I kind of think like that, where it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna stay putting this stuff out regularly. But whatever I did with the way I did this last thing, where I like uploaded all 3 records at the same time, it was such an amazing experience, because like I set the release dates. I know exactly when they're going to drop on stores and Spotify. And then so this, that really took away the stress that I was feeling in the last year, the way I was doing things before, because like now, these records are going to drop, but in the meantime, I'm, doing all sorts of other stuff. Yeah. Lots of projects that don't even involve really, MATHIEN records.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with somebody a long time ago, and they were telling me the importance of having a record completely finished before you start promoting it, just so that you can have a little bit of, you don't have the pressure behind finishing a record and promoting it at the same time. Yeah. And I can definitely relate and understand that.
It's hard to get there for me. To me, it feels like buying winter clothes in summer, where it's like, oh, I'm going to buy this coat, but it's going to be dope, but I can't wear it for 3 months,
Yeah. I do a lot of that stuff with bringing down the band, like a lot of the music that I share on there, or media that we share on the YouTube pages. Like a lot of that stuff is planned out. Like a week ago, I had a week and a half planned out all the releases, which to your point, it's freeing in a way to know that you don't have to. It's like, all right, this is already taken care of. What have I been neglecting, or what other type of headspace can I get into? So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like really good. Like whenever I come down here to make music now, I just feel like so good, and I want to, I think that's crucial, man. Just having the burn the sage and get the vibes right down there,
You were in Southern Indiana, I think you said from until 2008 or 9, and then you were back in Chicago. And then did you go to Nashville for a while?
I went to Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah, East Tennessee. It's right by Asheville, North Carolina. It's also pretty close to Cincinnati, and it's pretty close to Nashville and Atlanta, Chattanooga. So I loved it. I loved living in that hub, especially for playing live. Oh, it was great. You play one show in Knoxville every few months, and then for the rest of the time, you just get in your car and drive to different towns and play. Yeah. Bowling Green, Kentucky is actually a really cool place to play. I learned a lot living in Knoxville too. That happened shortly after that experience I just described to you with the unique man. I basically moved down to Knoxville because I was like, I had to divorce myself of everything that my life was. So I left Chicago and just started new. And Knoxville is like really the perfect place to do that. Like it's ideal for that because it's safe. It's like pretty affordable, and it's like kind of sleepy and quiet. It's hard to get people out of their house a lot of the times.
So how long did you stay there for? Was it solely for like?
It might have been 4 years.
Really? So from what made you want to make the move to come back to Chicago, I guess would be a better question.
I moved to Toronto first.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Moved to Toronto.
Tell me about
that. I got involved with somebody in Toronto, a relationship.
Okay.
A romantic relationship. Yeah. Went up to, moved in with a girl up there, and it didn't work out. But I was there for 6 months. But by the time it didn't work out, I like, when I realized it wasn't working, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So the easiest decision to make was to just go back to Chicago. And I found You know, one of my old buddies was a landlord. One of my old buddies from college like owned a house. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, what'd he say? He's like, yeah, it's gonna be 900. Or it's like, it's gonna be $1,000 a month. And I was like, what if I gave you? I was like, what if it was 500 a month and I gave you $3,000 right now? And he was like, that's a great deal. Not to get too divulge too much about my personal business, but like that was like all the money I had. But I was just like, I'm gonna give him all of this so I can just not think about rent for a long time, and then figure it out. And so I had to figure it out from there. But you know, my first time in Chicago, living in the actual city, was treacherous. It was really, I mean, the city can really eat you alive if you have to really hustle out here. But I can't even imagine what New York would be like. But when I came back to Chicago, I was a little older. I was a little bit more established, and I knew how to live here. I knew how to get on the L. And I missed it. I was so happy to be back. I was doing a photo shoot over by Maxwell's in Pilsen, and when I was in Toronto, it was a weird, like, people don't really talk to each other on the street as much out there. And I miss that. It's very socialist. So everyone's taken care of over there. So nobody really fucks with each other. They don't need each other. So I remember I was doing a photo shoot right by Maxwell's Hot Dogs. And I was standing in the street and some guy was at a stoplight and he rolled down his window and he was like, you better watch out. People get taken out all the time over here at this intersection. People die all the time. And he's like, I'm just letting you know. And then he drove off. And I was like, man, I miss that. I miss these people that are like nice and rude at the same time.
Yeah. That's a pretty good, They mean well, right?
Yeah. Salt of the earth, man. The classic, like, you know, Chicago guy. They're real. That's an archetype right there. Like the fucking Chris Farley in the Bears jacket with the mustache. That's a person. That's a real person. I heard a guy that had a Chicago laugh. These construction workers were working outside of my house and I walked by and all of them started laughing and they laughed in a Chicago accent. It was like, yeah,
I know exactly.
Yeah, and I looked over, they're all laughing and they looked like birds, you know? Looked like a bunch of pigeons, like.
Do you, how did you, when you were in Chicago, post school or whatnot, and you started working with rappers and stuff, how did you get into that? How did you become the hook guy? You know what I mean? And then how did you link up with Sully?
Sully, well, I'll answer your first question first, respectively. How did I? Well, I started working with rap artists in Carbondale.
Okay.
So, you know, it was really easy because I'm making all my music in the dorms down there. So it was really easy to, you know, meet people who rapped and then, you know, make a rap song in your dorm.
Right.
So then that sort of habit just carried on when I moved back up to Chicago. But yeah, so that was sort of like natural for me. But meeting Suleiman was like really good because I think he like opened me up to another caliber of rap or what I could do with hip hop, you know? And the way I met Sully was I met him through a girl named Erica Chapman. And she called me, or she sent me a text one day and she was like, you should come over to my house right now because Suleiman's over here. And I was like, who's Suleiman? And she was like, he's a rap artist. He runs a blog called Blind Eye for the Kids.
Yep.
And I went over there to talk to him because I wanted someone to write about my music. I really thought I was just going to go over there and sort of like network, if you will.
Right.
And then he played me a bunch of his video, or he played me one video that Nick shot for him, and it was called Sandwich. Yeah. And I was like, we have to work together. And then from there, I was living in my grandma's basement in Lincoln Square. And he would take the train all the way from Beverly, which is like, I think it takes you like an hour and a half or something to get up there. But he would take the train all the way up to my spot, and we'd record like 2 or 3 songs in a day. And we just really got along, and we really worked well together. It was amazing. And then something really cool happened where we recorded a song called Breathe, and after we were done recording it, we made the beat, recorded the whole track, and like I think it took us like 2 hours. We were done in like 2 hours. It was sick. And then 𝗏𝗏𝗄 was on WGCI at that very moment, and Suleiman sent him an email with the song in it, and then the song was playing on the radio before we even left the room.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the 𝗏𝗏𝗄.
Shouts to rest in peace, 𝗏𝗏𝗄. Shouts to Suleiman.
Yes, Suli, extremely talented, man. He's one of the dopest rappers that I've been able to work with on a small scale. I think I produced one song for him years ago. Every time he would put stuff out, it was like Black Ribbon Hard Work was something that he dropped, and I think is what it was called. And then he did the stuff with the Treated Crew and all that stuff. And then you guys put out your project, and I was like, oh, this is different. And it's like really special. Like your guys' project was.
I think people who knew Suli weren't used to hearing him in that context, and then people who knew me maybe weren't used to hearing me in that context. So that's maybe what was special about it.
Definitely very special.
Thank you, by the way.
From the outside
Nice
looking in. Yeah. Hey, no doubt. That was and I think that was definitely my introduction to your music. And then from there, I've just kind of slowly paid attention to what like on the side, like, all right, MATHIEN's dropped something new. Let's check it out. I think I chopped even a whole bunch of your records, I think about a year ago or something. So
did you chop? Did you send any to me? You sent Sincerely to me, right?
I don't know if I sent them to you or not. I shared them on Instagram.
You sent me. Maybe that's where I saw it.
Because I tagged you in them. I tagged you.
Okay. That's what it was then. That was dope. Someone just flipped Worlds Apart Part 2.
Nice.
On Twitter, they sent it to me.
That's real fresh. That's I think that's probably my second or third favorite off your that new one. I like the intro a lot, the Gambit joint.
Yeah. So that Gambit 𝗏𝗏𝗄 came from this. I've been playing a lot of chess.
Okay.
And I started doing this exercise where I kill off my queen immediately. That's the first thing I do is I just put my queen in a really stupid spot on the board and kill her, and then see if I can win the game after that. Is it
like is it just a challenge, or is it like
it's a challenge for myself?
Psychological thing. Okay. Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up, because I did it just to sort of see, just to challenge myself, like you said. But what it did was people who are doing like people who play chess and they're like doing openings and stuff like that. If you kill off your queen, they'll be like, "What is this person doing?" And they think it's like if you play pool with somebody and you like miss the first few shots on purpose, and then next thing you know, you're just sinking them like a pro. Ace.
Bring it out. I downloaded a chess app on my phone probably like three or 4 months ago, just because I hadn't played in a while. But
yeah, it's great. I mean, I think about how old it is. Like, it's like one of those mysteries to me. I don't know. It's like one of those mysteries to me, like the guitar, the lute. Like, who the fuck figured out that you could put strings on a fretboard and all that? Yeah, that's like chess. Like, who came up with this? It's brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant.
What do you do in your free time when you're not making music?
I play chess. I have a fiance.
Yeah, I saw that. Congrats.
I love ordering clothes online.
Yeah. Any particular styles or types of clothes?
I cruise this app called Depop, which is thrift. It's person to person. People just send you clothes that they don't wear from their house, sold for like, you can get a nice pair of Banana Republic jeans that would normally be $38. You pay $14 for them, but they got some. They have some really, and some stuff's expensive too. You can find like a band tour t-shirts, designer shirts, backpacks, anything you can imagine. DEPOP if you're writing it down.
DEPOP.
If you're a person who likes Yeah, if you're a person that likes to go to like Buffalo Exchange or Crossroads or a place like that, like a clothing exchange, it's like that, but on your phone. Yeah, so
Interesting.
The USPS guy knows me in my neighborhood, Terrence. Another package, corduroys. He doesn't say corduroys because he doesn't know what they are, but
it'd be kind of weird if he said corduroys.
I say corduroys. Yeah. Yeah, so I do that, and then what else do I do? Before COVID hit, I'd like to go to the forest preserve and hike around and travel. I love to travel. But I was lifting weights before COVID, going to the gym, getting fucking big, getting huge, nice. Jacked, if you will. No, I liked lifting weights because of what it does, like mentally for me.
Right.
And if my arms look cool, or they look a little better than they did before, it's like a byproduct of that, and that's cool. I wasn't into like getting like muscle building or getting like you could be. I never did steroids or anything, but
what's that movie? Is it called The Lady in the Water? The guy that only worked out one arm and he had like one really jacked arm. Have you seen that? He had one.
No, that sounds awesome.
He had one extremely jacked arm. The other one was just like regular. It was crazy.
You could swim in a circle.
I was gonna say, talk about your traveling and your touring and stuff like that. Like, I'm not overly familiar with your older work, like when you're on the label and stuff like that, and before.
Yeah, it's way more rock. It's way more like Queens of the Stone Age sounding. A little more poppy too. It definitely tried to funnel me into this like pop rock / a little heavier, like Maroon 5 maybe. Like it was definitely R&B influenced, but like with distortion pedals. Anyways, let's talk about that. Yeah, we went on a few tours like throughout the Midwest and also the South. We toured the South a lot. That's actually how I found out about Knoxville. But yeah, the furthest east we ever went was at that time was North Carolina. And then the furthest west we went was Lincoln, Nebraska. I played Lincoln, Nebraska once, and 𝗏𝗏 was playing at the theater across the street with, forgot the name of the group, but they did a song called Doses and Mimosas.
I feel like I've met him.
𝗏𝗏. They were signed to Sony. They were called 𝗏𝗏. So yeah, we were both, me and 𝗏𝗏 are good friends, but we were both playing across the street from each other randomly in Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I traveled a lot like that, just tour wise. And then when I broke from the label, I started going to started traveling to Europe, try and play shows out there. Played a show in London. It was cool. Nothing huge. I played a show in London at like a lounge. There was like 20, 30 people there maybe, but I just felt cool playing in London. Everyone thought I was cool because I had an accent. And you could see it too. It's so cool to experience. Like you talk to people after a show and they're just like, they're smiling, listening to you talk, and like, oh man, this never happens. But I should tell this story real quick. They put me in the jail at the airport when the first time I went to London. I had a guitar with me, and the guy, the TSA guy, he was so polite. And he was like, "Oh, you playing any gigs out here?" And I thought he was being friendly, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm playing at this place called Bar Vinyl tonight." And he's like, "Oh, right. Step this way for me." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Do you have a permit for this?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck." So you're supposed to have a performance permit, and I admitted to him that I was performing, and he put me in jail.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he put me in jail. They interviewed me. I was in jail for like. And it's not jail, it's the airport jail, let's be real. But like, I was in there for a couple hours, and then they pulled me into this room and they interviewed me. They had a printout, they had a stack of paper. They asked me like 40 questions. Whenever they'd ask me a question, I would answer it, and they would write the answer down afterwards. So it was like a psychological thing where like you'd have to wait for them and the guy was writing slow too, so you'd have to wait for him to get finished writing what you said. Before they asked the next question. So what that would do is it would make you. I started simplifying my answers. At the end I was like, I can't get into story time here. I gotta really just give them short, simple answers so this goes by faster. but they knew a bunch of shit about me. They asked me about the label. They asked me about who I was seeing when I was there, where I was staying, of course. Yeah, it was scary. They told me like, we're either gonna send you home or we're gonna let you in. You know, we'll figure it out. But yeah, they interrogated me.
Just because, yeah. Just because you were gonna like play a gig.
They don't want Americans making money. Americans making money over there. That's what it boils down to. But they you know, they did a couple Google searches on me, and I think they were like, non-threat.
That's crazy.
But I also felt like I was really chummy and like funny when I was talking to them too. And there's one part where they asked a question. I think they have to ask you if you need anything, and that was actually one of the questions. It was like, tell us about your relationship with Midwest Music Group. And I answered that question. And then the next question was, do you need anything? And I was like, for some reason I said, can you get me an orange? And then I swear to God, a person I hadn't seen up until that point walked into the room and put an orange down. It was like another cop like came in with the orange, like, you know, a few minutes later. And then so, you know, the rest of the interview, I was like eating the orange. I was trying to be a cool guy, like eat the orange, use it as a device to appear casual.
Right.
And then at the end, he was like, all right, we're going to make our decision now. And they made me sit in another room and they like talked. I couldn't see him because it was a two-way mirror or whatever. They were watching me in there, but I couldn't see them. I'm with like a Nigerian guy, some Turkish people, and like a pregnant lady over here, you know, in a little holding cell. And it came back, and the guy goes, all right, well, good news. We are going to let you into the country. And I will say, this is such a grueling process for everybody. And you're quite gracious throughout. And he sort of was like, he basically told me you were cool and nice, and that's why we're letting you into the country. So I got in.
They like confiscate your guitar or anything?
No, but they searched, you know, they did a thorough search, and they found stickers. They found MATHIEN stickers. They're like, what are these for? I'm like, stickers, man. They handed them out at my show. And like, are you going to sell them? I'm like, no, I'm not selling my stickers. And then they let me in, and I was on one of those, you know, those long, like, I went to Buffalo, New York first, and then I went to wherever the fuck. It was like one of those connecting flights, so I was already traveling for like 30 hours or whatever, and I hadn't slept. And then by the time they let me go, I was in their custody for like, I think 4 or 5 hours. I had to go right to the gig. I was like late for the gig. So I was like just really like sort of slap happy and just like really tired, and played this gig in London. And I've played a few gigs like this where I was so exhausted that I just fucking killed it. Like I had like a Walter Payton fever game, you know? So is that the only thing that you did this particular trip was like go to jail, play your gig, and then my whole angle was like, I told these guys, I was like, listen, I'm playing this show, and then the rest of the time I'm gonna go see Buckingham Palace and all that stuff. Like I'm gonna go hang out in Brixton and go record shopping and stuff like that. Like I really want you guys to let me into the country because I don't really care about the gig. I told them I would cancel it. I was like, I'll cancel the gig right now.
Did you know anybody there? Or
yeah, I was staying with a friend out there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then so and then I became really good friends with Luke from Soul Food Horns when I was living in Knoxville, and he's Dutch. He's half Dutch, so he ended up moving to Amsterdam, and then I went out to Amsterdam and played a bunch of shows, and we recorded Good Friend. My Good Friend album was all done in Amsterdam.
Okay.
I know you shared that one song, Perfect Zero.
Okay.
Yeah, you shared that today, or someone did.
I don't. Oh, yeah. In the Instagram.
Yeah. So that record was all done in Amsterdam, and I love Amsterdam, and it's not because of pot.
Yeah, I've never been to Europe. I would like to go to Europe at some point in time.
Let's go, bro. Me and you.
I know. Down, man. I'm down. I'm with it. I need to. I really do.
So there's so much to uncover out there. Like I've only been to the UK. I've been to Spain. I've been to Ireland. you know,
Yeah,
you go to a handful of places, but you still haven't been to Poland or Germany or Italy,
yeah.
you know?
In general, I just would like to go and, experience the different, culture that is the different cultures within Europe itself. But
Yeah. I love Dutch culture, man. So chill out there. It's just like cobblestone. I remember seeing like a 95-year-old, I don't know how old he was, but he looked old as fuck, and he was riding a bike, and he was just like
happy as fuck too.
like this whimsical. He looked like a Disney character or something. I'm like, man, can you imagine seeing a 95-year-old man in Chicago on his bike, like
he would be angry
smiling?
as fuck, man.
Yeah.
He'd be that guy in the corner that tell you, hey man, you need to be careful when you're eating that hot dog, because it's gonna get you some later on the night, Yeah. But yeah, it's on my list of short things to do, is to travel more, because I find that just the independent lifestyle of doing doing everything yourself a lot of times is just, there's always an excuse not to travel and to always just to work more, at least for me. And so I just need to get out of that mindset. So
it's also a weird time to think about traveling too.
I mean, yeah, there's that as well, but this is for me specifically. This is something that's like, COVID made it easier for me to not do anything. Like I was already already in that like rhythm of life, I guess. But
I was one of those people who was like, oh, we don't have to go out. Oh well.
Yeah. This is me. I was like, extreme. Care. I felt great. Actually, for the first couple months, I was like, this is spectacular. It's like, all right.
I had this narcissistic thought where I was like, man, the world just adapted to me now. This is sick.
I did too.
So but obviously that's like pretty selfish, and yeah, people were like dying and shit. So
yeah, I mean, all that stuff aside,
there are some silver linings of COVID for sure.
What haven't you done musically that you kind of want to do, or do you even think that far ahead?
Man, I want to work with and no disrespect to the amazing artists who I've worked with, but I want to work with like a major artist. Would love to work with 𝗏𝗄𝐻 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Have you heard of 𝗏𝗏𝗏?
I have not.
He's got some dance tracks that are out that are really big. I would just really, I want to get like a feature on like a big song or something. I want to do something like that. I really do. More for the experiential. No, I want my name. I was going to say like more for the experiential part of it, but no, there's probably a big part of me that would want to see, just what would happen if I had massive exposure.
Right.
And I think I'm actually like, I feel like energetically and spiritually like I'd be okay with it happening at this point, because I'm just not the type of person that would really, I'm not going to like move to LA and start like worrying about, going to parties and being in Hollywood or being like relevant or anything like that. Like I just really, for the music's sake, I want it to get heard in a big way.
Yeah.
So like, if your question was more based in like style, or
it was just
like
in general. I mean, sometimes when I ask these questions, I have to realize that I'm a musician too, so I very easily can understand what you're saying, and like I can 100% relate to that. Like I'm perfectly fine continuing to make music, and for a core group of people that enjoy what I do, and slowly, continually grow and build that up. I saw Mike Eagles say once on Twitter a couple months back, he said, it's like, for once I would like just not to have a slow burn. I just kind of,
I saw him say that too.
And I definitely related to that.
Yeah.
But
I feel the exact same way. His slow burn's like pretty decent though.
Yeah.
He's got a nice slow burn going.
But so like I could definitely relate to that, and it would be I do kind of wonder like what it would be like to have a certain amount of exposure on something that would be big. That would just be cool, just to see what it's like, like
like what happens to your Instagram? I think I just want to see what would happen to my Instagram. How many followers would I get? Would I get more likes? I mean, I would hope I would, right? If you didn't, that'd be fucked up. You're on like a #1 record and people just didn't care enough to follow you on Instagram. I would be really sad, Sean. I'll be honest.
Instagram, man.
I care a lot about Instagram. I think a lot about Instagram. Yeah, not
like specifically.
Not in a way where I'm like looking at my phone and like, oh man, that one only got 80 likes. What the fuck? It's not like that, but it's more like I really enjoy taking pictures. I guess I enjoy photography. And I also like, putting on a nice outfit, taking a selfie for old time's sake.
Yeah. I liked Instagram more when like there was some sort of discovery on it. And ever since it became like you have to like pay to get people to like see stuff, Facebook and Instagram, I've like kind of neglected those social platforms almost completely. So I definitely do like the idea of documenting things at different points in times. I guess I could just go through phases though. But
I love going through my archive, really. Every
once in a while. It's good to have like that documented so you can actually go back through it and see things. But my question was definitely that, which I'm happy you said, but also musically too. Do you have like an intent to, I mean, it doesn't seem like you really have much of an intent to, it's very organic, I guess.
No, I don't care about, like, when Justin Bieber put out that record and he got all mad because they classified it as pop on Apple.
I don't.
And he wanted it to be R&B.
Oh,
he got all upset. Wrote a big letter about it, and I read it, and I was like, "This is fucking stupid. Like, why do you care? Why do you care what bin it goes under at the record store? Like, what really matters is the songs, and that people like connect to it. So that's where I'm at with it. Like, I just want people to like it, and genre is an afterthought or secondary. Always has been, but there's still." Everyone will listen to it and put it in a certain thing anyways. So are there things that are uncovered? Yeah, I think I've thought about doing like more traditional jazz stuff. I've thought about doing like, and I have like I have done jazz songs, and I've done like Sincerely is a vocal jazz record. I've thought about doing country records. But like, can I make a country record without, doing the voice?
Right.
Will it be country without that twangy voice or whatever?
There's that's the one genre of music that I can't do is the twangy country. I don't know what it is about it that just like it almost makes me angry sometimes, and I don't know what that is exactly and where that stems from.
Is it like the sound of white toxicity? Maybe.
I mean, that's potentially part of it.
Is it that?
I don't know.
It's sort of. It can be. It definitely can be.
But that's the one genre that I have a really hard time to get into. Have you ever made any like dance records or like house records and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have a whole house. I have a whole house project that I put on YouTube. It's called 𝗲𝐿 2.
Okay.
I was gonna release it on Spotify as like the sequel to the 𝗲𝐿 mixtape, and it's all house stuff. And I was gonna put it out, but I don't know. I have at least, I mean, it is on YouTube, but I wouldn't be comfortable with it being on Spotify because it would really I mean, it would mess up the if they're shuffling my music. We found a hidden genre weakness of mine, but if you're shuffling, MATHIEN on Spotify and you're hearing a jazz song, a funk song will sound okay after that. Maybe a rock and roll song or a blues song will sound fine after that. But then all of a sudden you're in like dance world and there's 909s and sort of like disco breaks. It's now all of a sudden you're at the Gap and you're shopping. At least that's the kind of house music that I make. I make house music that sounds like you're at the mall, because that's what house music I want to hear house music that makes me want to buy a nice collared shirt. That's just me.
Collared shirt.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell me, if you listen to this house record that I did, You can tell me what it is, because I don't know what to make of it. Because
I am ignorant when it comes to like different styles of house. I may be able to tell you like where in the mall that I would be at when I'm listening to it, but outside of like, you know, like if it's ghetto tech versus Chicago house versus European versus Italian and what, I don't know shit. All I know is it's typically 4 of the floor, and different regions have different types of styles. But I could definitely tell you like where it places me, you know, visually. You know, I'm gonna have that like trying on a collared shirt stuck in my head now. But
or a turtleneck, whatever, you know. And I think I eventually will put it on Spotify.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you. I was going to ask you, so it sounds like you're very intentional about how you place and release music into which platform, because you have essentially your Spotify distribution services, then a Bandcamp, and then YouTube. How do you decide what goes where? Is it just more experimental stuff you just kind of throw out on YouTube? And
with for some reason with Bandcamp, I'm cooler with stuff going up on that site that, you know, where the mixes might not be perfect. In fact, I've done things where put out a record on Bandcamp, and then like after listening to it a little bit, I'll be like, I'm gonna mix these records a little bit better. I'm gonna, you know, add a song here, take away a song here. Yeah, and then once I get a little better version of it, I'll put that on Spotify. So I consider Spotify more like the you know, it's like I feel like my more polished stuff is on there, and then Bandcamp is just like, man, fun. It's like fun. You put music up there and people listen to it. Yeah. SoundCloud, I virtually stopped using it. So
I did too, actually.
Yeah, sad. It really, for me, it went downhill, man. The algorithm got really lame, and then it just seemed like, man, back in the golden age of SoundCloud, back in 2015, man, you put a song on SoundCloud, and then, you know, a bunch of people would say stuff about it, and then at sometime around 2000, I want to say like 17, people just stopped commenting on the stuff, and then I don't know, it's like started getting this complex, like, man, maybe my time's up because I'm not getting as many SoundCloud listeners. But really, what it was these apps are always changing, and
they are. It's so hard.
You can't take them personal, man.
Yeah, it can't. Yeah, Spotify, SoundCloud. Man, I haven't updated my SoundCloud in a minute. But the thing is, I always liked SoundCloud. I always thought it was cool. I still actually like it. It's just it's always the discoverability on all these apps that always kind of makes me like turn my nose up a little bit. It's like once they start making it to where you have to like invest and spend a ton of money just to get people to listen to your own stuff. Like I remember when I was building up, bringing down the bands, and this is of course bringing down the band, not music, but I was building up our Facebook page, and because we had like, I don't know, 700 likes, and I spent like a year building it up to 4,000. You know, I was intentional about it. And then
were you follow farming, where you'd follow like a bunch of people and then unfollow them?
No, not at all.
That's good. Just wondering. I've never done that.
It was a lot of it was like sharing like videos, like uploading videos, and then like posting them into groups was what a lot of it was. And so from there,
I was doing that too.
And it actually worked pretty well. Like if we had a video that did well, then people would come over and like us and stuff. And what the trick was is once somebody liked your video, then you could invite them to like the page. And so that's what I was doing. Anyways, grew it to like 4,000. I don't even know what it's at anymore. And then the algorithm changed right afterwards to where even though we had 4,000 people that liked our page, every post was getting like maybe 16 to 30 reach. And it was like, it just killed it for me. And I was like, I don't.
What a bummer, man.
You know, so we got to spend money on advertising.
Why did they do that?
So they want to make that advertising dollar. So,
yeah, that's always what it is.
So, what is your process of making music when it's like a beat versus like something you're gonna sing on? Is it do you approach like making beats differently than, you know, writing songs?
Yeah, but I think of the song as the end product. So like, to be honest, I'm doing a lot of the things that you would maybe normally separate. Like, I'm writing lyrics, I'm mixing, I'm producing, I'm recording parts. It's all happening at once. So yeah. You know, obviously not at the same time, but within an hour span, I'm not thinking about, all right, I'm writing lyrics now, or I'm performing this, I'm writing these chords here. No, it's more like it's really more free than that. It's you know, it's getting up and you know, listening, dancing a little bit maybe, and then you pick up an instrument, you play it, and then you think of a word, might be only like part of the hook or something, so you start creating the hook, and you got a hook, and then usually if I can come up with if I can write the first verse and then the hook, that's always a break part for me. Like, okay, I'll take a break now, and I come back. You
accomplished it. Yeah, it's like you got
and then it's like, okay, all I gotta do is record one more verse basically. But like I said, like all this stuff is happening at once. It's not like I'm really like, the mixing thing is really like, most people do mixing at the very end, but I feel like I'm mixing from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Because when I think it's good too, because when I get to the point where I'm actually recording vocals into the mic, like, you want to have a fucked up mix in your headphones.
Yep. Well, so you need to know how the voice is going to place too, you know, especially if you're singing.
Yeah.
You know,
you
need a pocket,
maybe even what effects you're going to put on the voice or whatever while you're doing it. So, but yeah, like again, like the process is, there's no formula to it. I've walked around Chicago before and thought of a lyric, and then just like remembered that lyric in my head, and then not used it on a track until 2 years later, because I was just making that certain track, and then I was like, yes, okay, these chords are going to work for that lyric I wrote that I haven't been able to use.
Right.
So it really is just, I mean, it's collaging. It's auditory collaging. And so, I don't, it's hard to answer that question because I don't think about how I'm doing things really.
Everything that you make, you're not trying to necessarily write on everything, are you? You just write if it makes sense? Or do you go into some songs like, oh, I know I'm going to write to this?
I have the intent of trying to write to it, but then sometimes I can't write to it, and then throw it in a folder. Try to license it, you know?
Right.
Or try to get another artist that would be interested in it. Yeah, I had something. The same thing happened to you earlier, but I had a good one. It's gone.
It's like right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been learning as I've grown. I've been learning to really detach from, because I used to get really upset when something would be on the tip of my tongue and I couldn't get it. I get mad.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm a little older now and I don't give a shit. Might be gone forever.
I subscribe to the idea that if it's something that's important, then I'll remember it. So,
yeah. A little penny in a wishing well.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about, the last year and creating, and you mentioned being an introvert and this whole, creating in that space. How has the last year been for you? With everything kind of being shut down as a musician. I don't know if you were playing were you playing a ton of shows pre-COVID?
Before COVID, I had this mentality where I was really just a recording artist. I was going to make records and put them out. And then, I was already trying to find ways to like monetize this space and get my music licensed and maybe, do production work for people and stuff. I really like working out of here. I love playing live, but playing live all the time is not fun for me. Ideally, I would like to play in Chicago every 3 months. And we recorded another Local Nobodies album. Sully flew out here this summer. We recorded another record, and at one point he was like, yo, what's it going to be like when we go on tour? He asked me that, and I said, oh man, we're going to go to 5 places and then I'm going to go home. Like, that's what I would want it to be.
all of a sudden a massive amount of like stress comes over your face of thinking about touring
Yeah,
and putting
like
it
the
all
idea of
together.
like playing 30 shows is like, no, I don't want to do that. Really, not at all. Sorry, everybody.
Do you DJ at all?
I DJ'd once at Raiden, just play Rodan in Wicker Park, and it was so funny because I DJ'd vinyl and I didn't know what I was doing. This guy called me and he was like, "Hey man, I got a DJ gig tonight in Wicker Park and I can't do it. Can you do it?" And I was like, "I'm not a fucking DJ, man." And he's like, "Wait." He's like, do you have records?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got records." And he's like, "You're a DJ." He's like, "They're gonna give you $150." And I was like, "Okay." And so I went and I did pretty good, honestly. Like I knew the concepts of it, and then they had the headphones set up for me, so like I was like, I had brought like 20 records, I think. I didn't have that many, and they were weird too. I remember I had 𝗲𝗱𝗱 𝗛𝗲𝐻 was one of them. But like I was just I was winging it, as you said earlier. But I remember I was real clumsy and I kept on hitting the needle and it would do that thing, and the whole, you'd look at everyone and be like, ugh. So I had this really terrible DJ gig once, but no, never got into like doing Serato and all that. Just always had a shitty computer, honestly.
Yeah, I mean I understand. Plus, it's a really it's an expensive hobby, man. It's like
unless you have a draw. If you have a draw and people can come see you, like you can get paid a lot. But,
that's true.
Yeah, just make the music.
I work at a DJ school and I teach the production part of it. So last year, before COVID, I was like, all right, I'm gonna take the DJ class just because I've always wanted to do it. It's a lot of fun. Like it was one of the few times in the last, I don't want to say few times, but relating to music, it was like no work at all. Like I just was taking the DJ lessons just to take it, and so I had no expectations. I was pretty decent, I think. Played one gig and then COVID happened. So, but it was, I didn't spend like, I would have to spend at least probably $3 or $4 grand to get, at least $2 or $3 grand to get just a basic setup. So I'm like,
totally.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. I don't want to do that.
But yeah, your question earlier, like, how have you been managing with COVID and everything like that? Yeah, let's
go back to that.
Like when I said earlier that I felt like the world adjusted to me, like I meant it. Like I really felt like, oh, this is I sort of felt bad. I felt sorry for a lot of the musicians who I know who are they really rely, like guys who play the saxophone or something, like, oh yeah, they play in like 5 or 6 bands, and then they're relying on those paychecks from those gigs, wedding gigs and stuff like that. And so I was really happy that I was able to start really thinking about how to survive just from your house. I was trying to make it so I didn't have to play as much. And then when COVID hit, in certain ways, like I really feel like I'm flourishing, which is cool, but it's also like it feels really for all the crazy stuff that's been happening just beyond COVID, just all the unrest that's happening in the world. It's weird to sort of feel like you hit a stride in your business and your music, and sort of feel like almost guilty about it sometimes, where it's like I've caught myself masking my joy in front of other creatives that are struggling. Like when I talk to somebody who's having a hard time, it's like, ooh, you gotta bite your tongue. You don't want to make people feel worse,
Right.
And tell them, oh yeah, I'm kicking ass right now. But I'm doing, to be honest, it's been going pretty well. And
well, good.
Yeah, I
mean, that's great. I mean, have you ran into any issues where you feel like, so I'm very introverted, and I'm somebody that I'll go teach and I'll pretty much be at home type of person. Maybe I'll go out once a week to where my friends are at, like pre-COVID times. But I found myself kind of feeling like, even though I was comfortable being kind of, I don't want to say closed off, but kind of like away from people, that I found myself like almost feeling like I was getting becoming too distant to other people.
Yeah, I know what I said earlier was sort of introverted, but I'm like both, I guess. I'm extroverted and introverted. I definitely I call somebody on the phone every day.
Okay, so you're way different than me, because
I call somebody on the phone every day, and sometimes I'll just be like, who am I gonna reach out to right now? And I'll just cruise through my contacts, and I'll be like, you know, nice. Carly from Sidewalk Chalk. I haven't talked to him.
Yeah.
And I honestly probably should call him now that I think about it. But yeah, I love staying in touch with people. And I do love, like, I love being around a lot of people and socializing, but I've learned that it is expensive. It does take energy out of you. And I've learned to sort of learn myself and know when it's time to, like, just be at home. And I think before, like when I was in my 20s, I was like going out just because I felt like I had to. And
that's how I was.
Yeah, and it's like I wish I could go back and like not go out as much.
That's interesting that you have that take, and I think I wish that I felt like I wanted to go out and be more sociable. Like I felt like I kind of wish that I feel that way, because I feel like my sweet spot is almost being a hermit at sometimes.
Yeah, no,
it's I feel like sometimes it's not as healthy as for me as it maybe I don't know, but I mean,
you should go for a walk at least.
Probably see the sun maybe once every few days or something, something like that. But
yeah, you should definitely go outside, but I mean, what can you do right now anyway? So
yeah, no, that's very true. This is kind of a weird question because I don't think anybody has the answer to this.
Love
but I mean, what do you feel like the path that you're on right now is going to continue if the world ever ends up in a place where we can go outside and be around people again? Or I don't know, what's your future look like? I guess near future.
Yeah, if things open back up, I do miss playing live a lot. I just, me not wanting to do it that much doesn't mean I don't want to do it at all. Like,
no, for sure. Yeah.
Really, the feeling you get after you play a show, there's people there. I'm sorry, but when people say like, yeah, it doesn't matter if there's 2 people there or if there's 200 people there.
There's definitely energy
the same
in the
show.
room.
I don't know, man. I wish I could. We drove all the way to Raleigh, North Carolina once and played in a rain. Like there was a rainstorm, so no one came out, and there was 2 people there, and it was a bummer, man. It was a bummer. But that's not your question.
Nah, I understand. That as well.
If things open back up, I'm really excited to go out and play again. And I will continue on my path of just doing what I've been doing, because it's always just sort of this has snowballed into that, and I'm not goal oriented. I've never said, okay, this year I'm going to do this, and this. I'm more so just like, I'm going to put these records out, and then the records will make opportunities happen. And that's how it's happened. And if someone likes a song, then you'll get an email from someone saying, hey, you want to put this song in so-and-so, or, that's how you get work, I think. As an artist, you put out art.
Yeah.
Someone likes your painting. Someone likes your painting, then they want to buy the painting. So it's just simple as that for me. I'm putting out art in hopes that people will consume it.
Do you do a lot of licensing?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that and your process, maybe, about how you do it?
It's a lot of, so licensing to me is like pretty multifaceted in itself. So the first thing I ever did was for Nick. Nick called me because he was shooting a video for Puma. They flew him out to Brooklyn, and he shot a bunch of Instagrammers, and they were doing like a Puma commercial. And he was like, hey, can you do some beats for this? Like, yeah, sure. And I sent them something back, like, watched the edit that they sent, and I made something to it immediately and sent it back. It took me like 30, 40 minutes, and they had a track already. And then they were like, "Wow, this is awesome," to be honest. And they were like, Nick was like, we can't, the budget isn't great. We can't pay you that much. And it was a lot more than I was getting used to being paid because I was working at Starbucks. And I was like, a light bulb went off. I was like, man, if I can find more of these kind of opportunities, can really sort of build this. And yeah, like licensing is not, for a while, it was the main thing that was like keeping me afloat. I'm happy to say it's not anymore because I didn't want to turn into some like a jingle writer or whatever. Right. Granted, the work that I've done has been really like dope.
I bet you'd be a really dope jingle writer though.
I mean, I've done that. But, I actually work for this company right now called Songfinch, and I do custom songs for people who want a song for their girlfriend for Valentine's Day or something, and they send you their little story about how they met and stuff, and then you write a little pop song about it, and then the company gets paid, and then you get paid. And I did a couple recently, and I did two this past week, actually. I did two on Monday. It was my first time working for them. And after I did it, I told them I only want to do like, two of these a week at the most.
Right.
Because it's hard, man. It's like, you can really, you can get exhausted really fast doing certain things that wouldn't be natural for you to do if you were just in your studio. But that's one side of it. And then there's another, I got a lady named Melissa Chapman who runs she runs a company called Groove Garden, and she pitches to Netflix and all these different TV shows. And she has a bunch of my stuff that I've done, and that just sits, on her hard drive, and she's pitching it all the time. And so that's another route, is just having different agents that are always looking for work. And it's amazing how much sometimes you give someone a huge folder of songs, and they're constantly pitching them, and they're getting doors shut in their face for the most part. Like, it's like 99% of these songs aren't going to get picked, but like one or two a year, maybe you'll get a really cool opportunity your song will get in a TV show, and you'll make four figures.
Yeah, reasonable. Yeah, I've
four
got
figures.
I mean, that's right. That I've got two commercials, I think, placed. Everything that I've ever had placed was through a homie that did video work. It was like Castle, maybe years ago. He got me some East Bay placements like years ago.
Sick.
And I think we did a beat together, Castle and I, like years ago. And he just randomly hit me up, and he's like, "Hey man, what's your Venmo or whatever?" I was like, "This." It's like, "What's up?" He's like, "Hey, I sold a lease to this one beat that we were working on." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." It was like a Reebok, something with or something. I was like, "All right, nope." I mean,
he could have took that money. You would have never known.
Could have. And to be honest, I wouldn't even have tripped because he's Castle. But it's like through him and through two other homies that I have that do video work is how I've gotten all of my leasing. But that's definitely one area that I think I want to kind of like be intentional about working on, like in the next couple years, is finding ways to do more. Be more consistent with it, rather than random, even if it's like an agent. I guess I never really thought about an agent that actually pitches music for you, or something like that. So that's
you get like shit, man. It keeps on happening. I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, people have this idea about licensing that you're like, it's sort of soul sucking, and that you're like a hired gun, and you're just like sitting in this little studio, like just doing whatever anyone tells you to do. To me, it's like it's inspiring. I really enjoy. One, I like doing something that I'm not attached to 100%. I like creating something with the thought that I'm going to send this to the client. They might want me to do something completely different. I got to erase the entire session, and I'm cool with that. With licensing, because I'm for the most part, I'm not going to put it on the record, but But the other thing that happens too is I'll do a licensing gig for somebody and I'll listen back to the beat and I'll be like, this is a great instrumental. I'm going to just put this on a record as an instrumental.
Yeah.
So yeah, licensing is really cool. But I think for me, like I've gotten to a point where I want to set up almost boundaries with it because the creative songwriting, you know, the MATHIEN stuff should always be priority, I think.
For sure. Yeah. I can absolutely relate to the licensing aspect of working with people that don't know how to describe what they want is always so interesting. Like they'll be like, hey, I want something that sounds fast. You know, and you give them something that's like the worst one. And you give them something that's fast and be like, no, but you know,
lots of energy.
Yeah. It's like, all right, cool. Let's see if we can. And it took me a while to
more
like
upbeat
to like translate those terms to music terms and all that good stuff. But
I still don't know what the hell people are asking anyways.
I typically just throw like a
and then
basic
sometimes
thing.
I nail it and sometimes I don't.
Yeah. A lot of times I'll just throw something basic and then just say, yeah, what do you want me to change? Everything.
I've been there before where I'm writing the email back and I'm like, what do you guys think of this? And I'm like, I'm okay, delete that. I'm not going to ask them what they think of it.
Just, here you go.
Yeah, here it is. It's perfect.
Like, I'm so happy with this. Yeah. So,
good talking to you, Sean. Thanks for inviting
Chris.
me.
Hey, thanks for doing it, man. It's, I've been thinking about it for a long time. I was like, here's this guy, you know, MATHIEN. Obviously, Chris is your first name, I'm guessing. I mean, that's what you have on socials, right? So, it's just one of those things, like, we've been in the same kind of circles, kind of like we know a lot of the same people, and like people would be like, yeah, I know that guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know him, but I know that guy. Yeah, so
you know, I met 𝐷𝐴 at Pressure Point recording studio in 2010. I met him, Scheme,
okay,
guy named JREL and 𝐷𝐴. I met them all at the same time.
All right, yeah, I know those names. The only I don't know 𝐷𝐴, and I think I may have met him once.
I was hoping that 𝐷𝐴 would be on this show because I wanted to see if he remembered that, but I'm sure he does.
I'll ask him. I'll ask him next time I talk to him. But yeah, I'm looking forward to your new record, which you're dropping. You said the 23rd. It's going to be
That's
called
my birthday.
Okay, well, happy birthday. This is when you're about to be 36. 36, right?
36. It's my 36th birthday wish for everyone to listen to the MATHIEN album, 𝐷𝐴 𝗔𝐻𝐿.
Well, all right, man. Again, this is MATHIEN. You're pretty much MATHIEN on all socials, right?
Yeah, MATHIEN on Instagram, MATHIEN on Twitter. Yeah, find me.
I feel like I'm saying your name wrong. MATHIEN.
I like you're doing a soft th, and that's fine. I kind of like it, MATHIEN. Yeah, sounds fine to me, dude.
MATHIEN. But yeah, I just want to get people's names right. You know, you don't.
Yeah, MATHIEN.
MATHIEN. But definitely check out 𝐷𝐴 𝗔𝐻𝐿 on the 23rd. I know I will. Again. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Peace.